Everybody, welcome back to the Calibrate Tools and DIY channel. I am going to wait till some people come into the live. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody had a productive week so far. And like I said, almost half of the year is over with. And man, I tell you, time's just flying by, isn't it? Time's just flying by. Like they say, time waits for no man. So anyway, guys, see, we got a couple of people here watching. Subject matter tonight is, I'm sure, something you guys can relate to, whether it's directly or indirectly. They never show the positive. Who is they? Well, they can be a number of things. They can be and I'm going to focus particularly on the media. But I think this is a very important subject because it really relates to how certain individuals access to opportunities are limited or not. Okay. So we know that this country has a long history of perpetuating, denigrating, dehumanizing, and you might as well say putting out caricatures of certain groups in the country, namely African Americans, and even in the past, before they were assimilated into the non-threatening into a non-threatening status, Asians and probably Hispanics at some point as well. And this really hasn't changed. As you scroll, the media landscape has changed, right? It's not just it went from pictures on paper to let's fast forward to film, right, on TV and the movies, and then now social media has taken over. But this same pattern of negative stereotypes seems to have been the common thread. It doesn't matter how the media type or landscape has changed. The negative stereotypes and the negative images and depictions are still there, which I find very disturbing. All you got to do is scroll, take your phone and scroll through social media. What do you see? You see some of the most ignorant portrayals of certain individuals, and it's I'm kind of wondering, is the algorithm pushing this stuff or not? Is it because it can't be that everybody out there who is of a certain demographic is this way. So if you really think about it, it has to be some other, and I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist here, and I'm going to connect it to something else. So just give me some time here, guys. I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think it's just what's been the history of this system is to keep it stratified, where you have the haves and the have-nots, and that falls into classism and racism and all that stuff. And so, in order for them, right, in order for the system to survive, you have to keep it going by perpetuating images of that lower class, or what you consider the lower class. And that's what happens. So you go on social media and you see some of the, like I said, you see some of the most shameful and behavior, and coming from one group, and you don't see it come from another group. And you say to yourself, well, man, why is that, right? And once again, it's because this system, especially in this country, the way it was founded, it had to dehumanize certain individuals, right? Had to dehumanize certain demographics and elevate other demographics, right? To create that hierarchy, you know, that social hierarchy that we see today, right? Where certain groups is on the bottom and certain groups on the top. And, what do we do about that? One of the reasons I started this channel is to kind of fight against that in my own way, to be a positive representation of my community. And that's really what this channel is all about, to be honest with you. It's to inspire my community to do something more positive, not to be swayed and lured by the fast buck or the fame or whatever you're looking for, and to basically sell your soul and put yourself out there in a very negative fashion, right? And so, yeah, I think it's for me, it's getting to the point where it's really unbearable to even go on social media and scroll through my feed and see nothing but the worst of the worst representations of my community. I'm sure other people can say the same thing, and some of you may not even agree with this, but yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous, right? But once again, this is a pattern, right? This is a pattern of the system to, in order for it to survive, it has to do this, right? It has to do this. If it doesn't do this, then it's going to crumble, right? If you put positive images out there of people that you always look down on, that's going to start to erode your system, right? And that will instill a lot of fear in people. But isn't that something? A positive image of somebody that you never respected, right? You may pretend that you respected them out in the world, but you never really respected them because society never taught you to respect them, right? Imagine that, right? You start being bombarded by positive images of these people that are accomplishing things way beyond your accomplishments in life. And what does that do? That instills fear. That instills a lot of hatred. That instills, just look at history. Just look at history. What happened to the African American community when they were building communities all over the country, right? This was during a time of segregation. They were building their communities all over the country, thriving communities with everything that you would need, self-sufficient communities, surpassing in terms of growth and economic growth and stability and all that, surpassing other communities. But what happened? Those communities got destroyed. Right? There were tons of communities all over the country. They got destroyed because they represented something that the other communities did not achieve, or these other communities did not want them to achieve, right? The greatness that they did. And till this day, I don't think that's been replicated because it's been squashed, right? It's been squashed. It's been, it's a prime example of, I guess, what some people would say, make America great again. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a concerted effort. It's a concerted effort by the media and the algorithms, I'll say it, the algorithms, to suppress any positive images of certain demographics. Okay. Because it's seen as a direct threat to the system, right? And because how many minds can you spark by flooding the airwaves, right? The algorithms with positive images of African Americans, other folks from other, I guess marginalized groups. I mean, how many minds would you spark, right? And that's really a threat to the system. Can you believe that? But it's the absolute truth. And so, if anybody's watching this that feels led to just be an entertainer, or just be some kind of, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with entertainment. There's a place for that, right? But that's a non-threatening stance. Being an entertainer, being a comedian, being an athlete, even sports, right? Even being an athlete is kind of a non-threatening stance. Look what happened to Colin Kaepernick. Look what happened to him. Okay, he lost his career basically for standing up for what's right. So yeah, you could be all those things. You could have a non-threatening stance, but the minute you assume a stance of, okay, I'm standing up to the evils of society, then you become a threat. You become a threat. And so what does that do? What message does that send? That sends the message to, especially our young folks, is, don't rock the boat here. If you want to make money, don't rock the boat. Just do what you're told, and all of that, right? So that produces a bevy of comedians, a bevy of entertainers, right? And then everybody starts to associate your community with that, right? And that's a shame. That's a shame, right? I mean, think about all the inventors that you don't know about. Think about all of them, all the African-American inventors that were responsible for some of the devices that you use today, the GPS, traffic lights. I mean, I can go on and on. African-Americans were responsible for those. But do they teach in their schools, do they teach them this? No, they do not. No, they do not. Because that would rock the boat, right? They can't handle that kind of truth. And so, what we have is a world that's running on lies and deceit. But it's only so long, that can only last so long. It's like a house of cards. You can only suppress the truth so long before it sprouts up, like the rose sprouting up through concrete. But yeah, it's like I said, as I was scrolling and as I was thinking about the live that I was going to do today, I said, this was kind of heavy on my mind. I said, why not share it with my audience, my thoughts on the subject? What do you guys think about it? Are you threatened by positive images of African Americans and other groups being portrayed in the media? Let me look at it. Media representation matters, says. I'm looking at reading something, says the media plays a significant role in shaping perceptions, and the lack of diverse and positive portrayals can perpetuate harmful stereotypes. Some examples of negative stereotypes include being portrayed as criminals, drug addicts, unintelligent, jobless, and this is particularly attributed to African American males. Yeah, that's the absolute truth there. And all you have to do, guys, is if there's any kind of issue going on or some incident that happened, it's like just go to the comment section. That'll tell you what the temperature when it comes to, how people think in this country. Just go to the comment section. I'm not saying that's everybody. That might just be a cross section of society, but I do think it reflects somewhat accurate attitudes, right, of society out there, and it's always negative, right? But you can't. Hey, look, you can't change people's thoughts. You just got to know what you're dealing with out there, okay? So this live is not for those people. This live is for us, right? When I say us, I'm talking about. This live is for us to really, understand how we portray ourselves on these platforms, not to feed into the monster that is, these negative stereotypes. Because sometimes we do it ourselves, right? We feed into it because of our own ignorance, and we become those stereotypes. And that's the sad part, right? Is then when we don't know we're doing it ourselves, or even worse, when we're willingly doing it for the attention, for the fame, and all of that, right? I mean, think about how many people that you see, like myself, talking about tools on YouTube. You don't see that many, right? And there's a reason I went this route, because I wanted to buck that trend, right? I wanted to buck that trend because those of you who don't want to see you succeed, right? They can't wait for you to trip up. They can't wait to find some excuse to call you that criminal, call you that drug addict, call you jobless, lazy, unintelligent. It goes on and on and on. Like I said, all you got to do is examine your feed. What are you scrolling through most of the day? What are you looking at? Most of the time, I would say that it's negative stuff. Right? It's nothing positive. It's so yeah. Part of the purpose of this channel is to show our folks that there are other ways to make it out here in the world, learning a skill where you can really progress forward and advance in your life and pass it down through the generations. We've always been tradespeople. That's what we had to do coming up, right? They didn't allow us in certain fields, certain industries, right? And even though we're in, not as, the barriers to entry aren't like they were. They're still there, from the standpoint of, yeah, it's illegal to do these things, but they still happen. It's almost like in the world of real estate, it's illegal to discriminate, but they still do it, right? So for me, it's all about self-sufficiency. It's not about changing minds. That time is over. It's not about changing their minds. That's they're gonna have to deal with that. It's about changing your stance in the world. It's about changing how you move in this world, where you're able to build a foundation for the generations to come. Because how many of you guys wants to see this stuff continue? If you have the foresight to look ahead into the future, 50, 60 years from now, you still want it to be like this. Well, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. There's a stat that's flying around that says the African-American wealth will be zero or something like that by the year 2050. I don't know if I'm going to look it up or something like that. I mean, what kind of stat is that? How did it get to this point? We know everything that has happened so far. And it may even look like we're advancing in some ways, but are we really? I would say that the reason, if that stat is true, right? If that's true, one of the reasons why that is because of lack of a cohesive community. And when you say community, what does that mean? You just mean, just a bunch of people that share the same culture, share the same phenotype or whatever you want to call it. No, a community is more than that. A true community, according to Claude Anderson, And if you don't know who Claude Anderson is, look him up. He's one of the elders in the community that's really, has really been on the battlefield, right? A true community is one that owns the means of production and owns the resources, right? If you don't have that in your community, then you're not really a community. You're just a group of people that share the same culture, maybe. But it's not, in this world, it's not just about culture. Is your culture the type of culture to understand and respect the importance of owning your resources, owning assets, the means of production, being able to hire your own people, being able to circulate the dollar in your community? Are you spending your money in your community? Are you going out of your way to do business with Black businesses? Are you doing that? Okay. Or is it easy just to go down the street and get something from someone that doesn't give a dang about you from the corner store? Sometimes you got to go the extra mile and spend the extra dollar because you're thinking about the long game, right? You're thinking about the long game. You're thinking about the preservation of your community. But if you don't have that mentality, then don't cry about not being respected in the world. You know what I mean? Don't cry about it. It's all about actions. I mean, where do you spend your money? That's the ultimate action. Where you spend your money can, it can really put a halt on a lot of the stuff that happens to you as a group, as a community. All right. I mean, are you building your own businesses? Are you networking with individuals in your community to build the infrastructure that can survive in, we can even call it this climate in the United States today, this very divided climate. It's always been divided, in my opinion. And those of you who say, "Oh no, everything's no, it's not." Let's be real. It's not that way. And this political climate simply has brought out what has always been there. So but once again, it's not about changing people. This life's not about making people like you more or having a change of heart towards you. No. It's not about that. It's about changing you and your community. Let them be who they are, right? Let them be who they are. They're always going to be that way, right? Don't worry about that. Unless you have to, right? You have to be able to defend yourself, of course. But think more on the lines of offense instead of defense. Make the chess moves now in a collective way, collective sense. Do business with your own community. I have products. As well. Calibrate has products. Supports Calibrate. Support this message. Support what I'm doing here. Go buy some of Calibrate's products. Okay. That's one way to do it. Do business with the community. People in your community, do business with them. Quit elevating someone else's in another community's business over yours. I'm speaking specifically to my community right here. Okay. Yeah, because the negative stereotypes, they're always going to be, they're not going to stop doing that. They're not going to stop doing that. And yeah, there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of damage that's been done to the community. A lot of self-inflicted wounds. We know the source of it all, right? We know before the 80s, we had a more cohesive community. And when they brought the drugs into our communities, it pretty much destroyed it. And that's happened really around the world, to be honest, right? That's that method has been used around the world, but it was especially used on us in the United States. And that set us back, I don't know how far. And we're still grappling to get out of that. Everything was affected by that. The music was affected by it. The family structure was affected by it. You know, and that was by design. That was by design, right? Our leadership in the community was affected by it. You know, by a tyrannical government that assassinated individuals in the community, took them out because they were trying to heal our community. You know, trying to bring it back together again. They were targeted and taken out of here. What does that tell you about your government? And once again, you know, this, I want to get too far on the politics side, but it's all interconnected here. And it's not, and I'm speaking specifically to my community. They know what they've done to us. Okay, they know what they've done to us. Let's not even pretend like they don't. Okay, and the ones that kept silent are just as culpable, right? And so, once again, guys, this is not a fight to change people's hearts. This is not a Martin Luther King speech. That's not what this is. This is a call. This is a call to gather together, right? Quit trying to please the algorithms. Do the right thing. Support your own communities. Everybody else does it. Everybody else does it. Okay. And for those of you in other communities that understand what I'm saying, that this is not something against anybody in particular, you know, but this is just facts, you know. And for those of you that don't, you just don't agree, and I know where you stand, and that's fine. This channel is not to appease anybody. Okay, this channel is to help anybody who wants to learn, but in particular, my community as well. Okay, so hold on a second. Yeah, anyway, guys, that's the message for tonight. You guys have a good one. I'll see you on the next one.